Alright, this time I have more proof. Are you ready? I've been following him for about a week now, right? I know that sounds weird, but don't question me. And at just the right place, at just the right time, I pickpocket him. And what's this? Among an otherwise normal-looking inventory, a boy's tunic. A young boy's tunic. Yeah, it gets worse. I head over to the Drunken Huntsman afterward, where him and his wife sleep. I check their end table, and there are 3 skulls hiding in there. They were too big for a baby, but they easily could have been those of small children. And the freakiest thing is the owner was trying to rush me out of there, wouldn't even let me look around at all, even after finding the skulls. So I'm like, guy, look at these. So I go outside, maybe try to give them to the captain of the guard, right? And he's climbing a roof just to avoid me. He's that desperate. All of this has to match up. It has to. Therefore, Nazim likes to eat babies and small children, and the whole city of Whiterun is covering up for him. I'm still working out the details just a little bit, but that's just one example of a theory that you might not have considered before, right? And I have quite a few good ones with me, so here today, I will be listing 5 theories you may have missed in Skyrim. Let's get into it. Starting off with number 5, Edda the Beggar is seeking revenge for the abuse of her child. Alright, okay, so let's make sense of this. In case she hasn't made a huge impact on you, Edda is a beggar who's usually found sitting on a mat inside the Rifted Marketplace. Very little is known about her. There is another beggar who says she's paranoid and that she's losing her sanity, but we don't learn much more than that. However, she does something very unusual. If you go into the orphanage nearby and you force Grelid the Kind to run outside, you can do this by casting fear on her, then Edda is the only one in the whole city who will run after her and stab her to death. Time and time again, I would pull Grelid out, and Edda would immediately stand up and start chasing her around. So the idea is that Edda used to have a child. Because of how poor she was, she brought them to the orphanage to, hopefully be adopted by a family that could care for and support them properly. The thing is, under the care of Grelid the Kind, this kid just got abused, right? We've seen the room with shackles on the walls and buckets underneath, the kids having to urinate themselves in place while they're cuffed to the walls. It's not the kind of life Edda wanted for her child. And because of her age, this probably didn't happen recently. And I doubt they were ever adopted. Grelid makes it pretty clear that she won't allow that. So it's likely that Edda's child ended up dying while under Grelid's care. And being so close to the orphanage, she probably knows what happens. So whenever she gets the chance to see Grelid, she ends up chasing her around until she can get her revenge. Number 4, Rarick is not having a hard time, but he wishes he was. Sorry, I have to be discreet, his orders. Let's start from the beginning. In Markarth, if you speak to Bethella at the Hag's Cure, she's going to ask for you to deliver a potion to Rarick for that, quote, problem he has. Discretion advised. So you go up to the keep and you do just that, and you'll notice once it leaves your inventory that this potion was called the Stallion's Potion. It increases your stamina for 300 seconds, which comes to 5 minutes. 10 would be more efficient, but it certainly beats 0. So the idea behind this one is that Rarick is trying to improve his adult dysfunction. Now, I still consider this to be a theory because how exactly can you be sure, right? I certainly don't plan on asking him about it. However, it would be naive to suggest that it is in fact meant for his horse, and that he needs to get to Whiterun 5 minutes earlier than usual. So this is a strong theory, let's put it that way. Although really what I want to know is who exactly he needs this for, right? As far as I know, he isn't married, but his bedchambers are right next to that of Phalene's. I wouldn't dare assume that her loyalty to the ruling family of Markarth goes even that deep, but, it's worth finding out. Tell you what, I'm gonna hide under Rarick's bed and wait to see if she comes in. If she comes in, then 3 minutes in, I'm going to poke out my head and go, "Weefum, baby!" Number 3, the Silver Hand used to be a part of the Companions. 2 mortal enemies were actually brothers and sisters. Now, as far as we know, the Silver Hand is just a group of werewolf hunters. They all banded together and said, "Come on, guys, we need to stop the copious amounts of werewolves that are running rampant through Skyrim. The dragons can wait." So they go through the effort of building strongholds for this one purpose. In addition to that, during the Companions' questline when they attack Jorvaskr, it's obvious they knew exactly where they were going, right? Did they pick up someone's scent and follow them to Whiterun? I mean, maybe, but it seems odd they know exactly where the Companions' headquarters is. They must have had previous knowledge of where it was located, right? So none of these things are adding up. Instead, we have a theory that they were members of the Companions themselves. When they started using lycanthropy to gain new powers, many of them really disliked that. They thought it was tainting the group. These people would split off and turn into their own renegade group known as the Silver Hand, and now they want to kill off anyone still using the blood of the beast to return the group to their former glory. This would explain why they want to steal the fragments of Wuthrad. Monsters don't deserve a legendary artifact like that. This would also explain why you can find several volumes of Songs of the Return in their forts. These books detail the achievements of Ysgramor and his companions. That's what they miss, that's their hero, and that's what they're trying to get back to. And, you know, lucky for them, I'm more of a vampire guy myself, so have at 'em. Number 2, Skyrim has a terrible calcium deficiency. This is a good example that sticks and stones may break your bones, and words may certainly do the same thing if you're not careful of what you're calling people. For example, milk drinker. This is a popular insult among the Nords when trying to call someone weak, or a wuss, or a little frail twig that was plucked up by an eagle that mistook them for a worm. You milk drinker, you. Real Nords drink mead and other ales that make them fall on the floor and vomit, kind of like babies. Warriors. But because they aren't drinking milk, their bones aren't getting enough calcium and they become very weak. This is evident when you fight skeletons, right? They belong to the dead of this land, and they're probably the easiest enemy to kill. One swing of your sword and every single joint is coming apart. I mean, you just have to tap them in that little nose hole they've got, and their whole head comes off. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it's because these skeletons have no muscle or tendons to hold it all together. To which I say, I don't remember the skeletons in Oblivion being this easy to kill, you cocky bastard! You know, you make that little face that you do, and then you retort by saying, okay, what about all the cheese they eat? They literally have wheels of cheese, the size of someone's head in just about every kitchen you'll ever find. To which I say, that's a good point. This is just a theory. I don't know. It doesn't have to be right for you to like the video. All I'm saying is they're eating some cheese, fine, but then they're not drinking any milk. They've got weak bones. It might be right. I don't know, but what's definitely right is this is exactly why they have no cookies. And number 1, we finally know who Lund had been mourning, and that was his lover, Lokir. So, alright, let's set this up real quick. At the start of the game, you're on a wagon, and opposite you is a man named Lokir. Ralof keeps calling him a thief because he tried to steal a horse to then ride away to Hammerfell. But, you know, the Imperials got him, they think he's probably working with the Stormcloaks, and so they're going to execute him. He knows this, so once he gets off the wagon, he makes one final attempt to escape, but he obviously ends up getting shot with arrows and killed. Now, keep this man in your mind, and possibly your prayers, because he mentions that he comes from Rorikstead. Well, if you've been there before, you'll know that if you go just a little northwest of town, you'll find a spot called Lund's Hut. It's long been speculated how the owner of this house died, but it seems very likely that it wasn't actually all the skeevers that are around the place, but instead that he poisoned himself because he couldn't deal with the loss of a loved one. This is backed up by the stone grave just outside that's adorned with flowers, a ring, fresh candles. So the theory is that Lokir and Lund were lovers who lived here. La la la. The thing is, they got into a fight. Lokir had been trying to warn Lund that Rorikstead was being run by Daedra. Which, that's its own theory, but I have a feeling you haven't missed that one. Although if you have, just know that the signs are overwhelmingly scary. Anyway, Lund wouldn't believe him. He says, oh, you know, Daedra, that's crazy. So Lokir runs off to try and steal a horse and then go to Hammerfell where hopefully the Daedra aren't going to get him. You know, obviously he fails, he ends up getting killed. And it doesn't take very long for the Imperials to send out notices of who they've recently executed. So Lund gets one of these and he sees that his previous lover is on the list. This is someone that, well, he still has strong feelings for, and he thought that he was probably going to come home after just a couple of days. You know, like running off to Hammerfell was just an excuse to get some air, right? That kind of thing. But no, he did get executed. Or maybe he was killed by Daedra and this is just some kind of sick cover-up. Lund doesn't know how to feel. All he knows is that he does feel guilty for not listening and that life without Lokir is not worth living, so he goes on to poison himself. Oh, and also, I think Lokir was going to Hammerfell because he thought there wouldn't be any skeevers there, something his boyfriend was oddly fascinated by. And there you have it, 5 theories you may have missed in Skyrim. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And down below, please tell me, is there another one you would like to add to this list? Alright, thank you very much for watching. And really, please, if you find some extra time, keep an eye on Nazim for me, right? Last night I saw him meeting up with a dark elf named Nevin Casey. It didn't look right. I'm not about to let him or any other elites get away with eating small children. Let's bring this sucker in!